Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Escape to Nature, where I'm coming to you live from the Okukuyu Dam Cam, which is in the Etosha National Park of Namibia. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on this wonderful Freedom Day celebrated in South Africa, where on the 27th of April 1994, we had the first free and democratic elections. It's also the day that we introduced the new South African flag. So lots of celebrations going on around in South Africa, and we'll be celebrating the wildlife as well. Now, I'll be controlling this dam cam in Okukuyu in the Etosha National Park, as well as the Djuma dam cam in the Sabi Sands of the Greater Kruger National Park of South Africa. And I'm not the only one that's going to be on the show today. We've also got Lauren, who's out in the Madikwe Game Reserve in the Northwest Province of South Africa, as well as Andrew, who's down in the Eastern Cape Province, and he's on the Amakhala Game Reserve. So it's going to be a wonderful show, I am sure. And as always, please don't forget that this is a live and interactive experience. So we'd love for you to get involved and jump on the Wild Earth website. You can register there, as well as downloading the Wild Earth app. And you have an alternative option of also going onto the YouTube channel, and please subscribe. But we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send through your questions and your comments and get involved as we escape to nature. So a little bit quiet here at the Okukuyu waterhole, but as we know, if you've been watching before, it does come in ebbs and flows. And as the day warms up, I'm sure we'll have a lot more animals coming down for a drink. I haven't seen any signs of any predators as of yet, but as per usual, we've got a lovely dazzle of zebras, as well as some of the springbok, who are also coming down to enjoy a drink. What would you like to see today? Well, send it through. We'd love to hear from you. So it looks like it's a wonderful day here at the Okukuyu waterhole. A little bit of a breeze. Looks like it's coming in from the south, but not a cloud in the sky. However, let's go and have a look at what the weather is going to be like across the different locations. So just a giraffe that's made an appearance there in the back. Probably also drink. Drink making sure that there's no predator.
Morning. Good day, everybody. Welcome to Amakhala Game Reserve on a cool day, but a sunny day. And we've started off with this group of giraffe that we see on this road most days. So we definitely want to show it to you. and spend a little bit of time with them and see how they're doing. Hello everybody, my name's Andrew. Morgan's behind the camera, and as you can see, sun is shining, weather is sweet, and we are ready for a day out on safari. Hope you are too. Bless you, Morgan. So now with this group of giraffe, there's actually 2 or 3 calves. I can't remember exactly how many there were. I think we saw 3. But of course now the bushes are quite high, so they're probably right underneath those bushes. But it's always nice, the adults being so tall, and you can see them quite clearly. Great temperatures for them to just start feeding. It's nice and cool for them. And so they're going to move around. They're going to feed quite a bit today, I'm pretty sure. Later on, they'll go down to the water and drink, and then back into this little thicket over here where they've been spending a lot of time. And there's a beautiful bull just in the background as well. Quite surprised this morning that we're not hearing the oxpeckers calling, because they really do enjoy hanging around giraffe. Peter, good morning to you as well. Thanks for your greeting over there. Yeah, we hope to find some cool things today. And we're not 100% sure what our plan is exactly, but we always manage to find some nice things to look at and talk about. So we'll see what nature wants to show us today. I was just mentioning that oxpeckers really do enjoy giraffe because giraffe are such huge animals and they do have a lot of ticks. And if you ever get to see giraffe up close, you will find that there's loads of ticks under their armpits and in their groin area. But it's funny, giraffe and buffalo, they say for a healthy individual, there's roughly about 2,000 ticks on the body. Can you imagine? I can't live with 1 tick on my body. But they are able to do it. Anything more than that, you find that ticks might make them sick, give them a bit of diseases or whatever the case may be. But it's very seldom you see that. So they do rely on oxpeckers. That is their main way of getting rid of the ticks, and then scratching up against the bushes. They don't use mud wallows and things like that. They don't spray mud on their bodies like elephants would. And I think some of the best silhouette photos that you could ever get are of animals like giraffe and elephants, and it just makes really, really nice, especially when the sun is behind them. And I remember when I was a safari guide out here, if you ever had a sunset and giraffe in the foreground, you definitely had to stop and spend time with them because it's so beautiful. The way they move around, it's almost like they're floating in a way. They're just gently moving through the vegetation or on top of the hills. Shame. So there is quite a breeze blowing about at the moment, and Not sure if you are seeing the ears of the giraffe are all cocked backwards. So they're trying to limit the amount of air sort of vortexing inside the ears. Because although they do rely on their sight, I mean, the smell is also very important for them, and their hearing is very important. But now with wind like this, a lot of the animals, especially the antelopes, they might feel a bit nervous because they're not hearing properly, and especially the scent of, threats might be blowing towards them, and that causes them to just, hunker down or go into a thicket or whatever the case may be. But I've noticed some of the best game viewing you can get is when there's absolutely calm weather. So nice sunny day, no wind, and the animals really come out and they enjoy themselves.
We hope that when you watch Wild Earth, you will fall in love with nature. We know that our explorers share a passion for nature and want to make a difference. Wild Earth Schools is back. Sign up to be an explorer, and your subscription will help us reach the future conservationists of our planet. Invest in something that truly matters, encouraging children to care for our beautiful wild Earth. Wild Earth Explorers, make a difference.
Now, I know I've mentioned this before, but if you do get to see giraffes feeding in relation to some of the other browsers, you find that giraffes are actually very, very careful and gentle with the vegetation for a few reasons. A lot of the diet of giraffe, the trees that they eat are thorny trees. Now, they don't like to get thorns in their mouth, and they most definitely don't swallow thorns. Now, they have a single intestinal wall, which is very different to animals like elephant who have a double intestinal wall. So now when giraffes are feeding, they just want the leaf content because their intestines are actually quite delicate, much like ours. And so they gently nibble around the thorns, tearing off the leaves, but they do eat just a few leaves here and there, and then they'll move on to the next bush. And that is because there's tannins. A plant needs to protect itself because it's in an environment where browsers are also habitating, and therefore these tannins get released by the plant from the roots all the way up the plant to the leaves, And for a moment, the leaves are tasting very sweet and very nice. But then, just like that, chemicals are making the leaves tasting very, very unpalatable. So giraffes, suddenly, they don't like that taste and they move off. Then the plant can survive. And that's why a lot of the plants do survive. But on windy days like this, they'll over-browse. Because if tannins are being released and pheromones are being produced in the form of perfume, which does travel with wind to the next thorn tree, then they'll be feeding in an area that they're not necessarily going to. They'll use the wind and feed against the wind, not with the wind. So it's a constant battle that giraffes and the vegetation have. Now, if they do consume tannin, it does have an effect on them. It gives them a feeling that they're full. That's what the chemical does. It convinces the giraffe that they're full so that they move away. And then the giraffe actually doesn't gain enough condition because it thinks it's full and it slows down, it's browsing and it's feeding and actually doesn't take in enough food. But giraffes and kudu, they know all about this and so they avoid the tannins. Just waiting and seeing perhaps if those young calves come out, because I think all of you love young giraffe. And I believe through some comments the other day when we saw the giraffes giving milk to one of the calves, that some of you had never seen giraffes weaning or getting milk from the mom, which is always a nice thing to watch. It's nice when the giraffes are very young because they can almost fit underneath the mother and they can, get to her mammary glands quite easy. But when they get a little bit older, they're getting taller and it becomes a lot more difficult to the point where it becomes almost impossible. And that's part of the weaning process, that they just cannot reach the mammary glands anymore. It's quite funny when young giraffes want to drink the milk from mom, but then the mom keeps on walking and says no, and they follow her and they keep trying and keep trying even while she's walking. France, morning. So yeah, between 9 and 12 months that they'll wean their young. So after that point, the young need to sort of be independent of the mother for milk, and they'll be well into feeding on the vegetation by that age. But they start feeding on the vegetation quite young, just a couple of months, they'll start to eat vegetation. But it's very interesting that, if you look at the gestation period of giraffe, it's about 15 months. But then the point where the calf becomes totally weaned off the mother's milk, it's shorter than what their gestation period is. So it just goes to show how quickly giraffe grow. And that's imperative. Giraffe need to grow quickly because, the adults, for the most part, are, semi-safe from predators, except for lions. But now, when they have calves, all of the above will go for them. And I do remember in one situation in Timbavati, we tracked a big male leopard who was quite nervous, unfortunately. But he managed to catch a young giraffe. And it was a newborn giraffe of about a week old. And when we found the sign of the struggle, you can't believe the violence that must have taken place, because you just saw hoof marks everywhere. There were sort of like the sand was all smudged, or you could see that there was a big battle. And sadly, the leopard that caught that, because of the big commotion that went down, spotted hyenas picked on that very quickly, and they went and took the carcass. So when we found the carcass, already spotted hyenas were already feeding off of it, but originally killed by a huge male leopard, which is incredible. It's not often that they will go for giraffe because it's risky, because the mother, she's going to be very defensive of that calf, and with those legs that giraffe have, if they kick a leopard, they're going to cause some serious damage, and they'll try. They kick forward, they kick backwards. Now, when you see giraffes trying to attack predators or threats like that, and they kick, what you find is when they do a forward kick, what they do is they put their hooves together, and they join them, and then they will stand up on their hind legs and chop down, and it's very, very powerful. Now, their hooves are actually quite sharp. The front section of their hoof is very, very sharp. Ben, thanks for your question. We've actually got a naturalist named Ben, but I'm sure you already knew that. So, Ben, here in Amakhala, of course, we have a pride of lions out here. They don't really show too much interest in giraffe, but that can change at any time. But there was a previous coalition that used to work out, or used to operate out here, and 2 adult males. They were magnificent, some of the best coalition I'd ever seen in my life, and they specialized really in big game. These 2 males would hunt buffalo, they would hunt giraffe. Yeah, they were unstoppable for the time that they were here. And so here at the moment, with the pride that we have, with the 2 adults, females and the male, and of course there are cubs that are still growing, they can sustain themselves on smaller things like eland and zebra and kudu and blesbok and so on. But you know, they're opportunistic. Sometimes opportunities arise that they become successful, and every now and then they might just catch a giraffe. I don't know if that's happened yet. It might have, but they're not doing it as frequently as some of the other lions that I've worked with over my career. I remember one night in Timavati, 2 giraffes got caught by a pride of lion out there, but that pride was huge. There were 10 plus members in that pride, and you can imagine with a lot of lions in a pride, it means that their meals need to be bigger because there's more mouths and more lions to sustain, so they have to specialize. But lions are also very smart. If they know that they can sustain themselves on much less riskier prey, then they would elect to, because at the end of the day, they don't want to damage themselves, they don't want to get hurt. As giraffe, I know they look gentle and they look loving and whatever the case may be. When it comes to defending themselves against predators, they can be very powerful. And sometimes even predators take a knock from them. I saw this video once upon a time of this male lion. He actually jumped on the giraffe's back. Luckily for that lion, he was above the halfway mark on the hind legs, and so this giraffe was trying to kick, but it was just pushing the male backwards and forwards. It was very lucky. But that male, you could see the look on his face. He had realized what he had done, and he had put himself into a very tricky situation. So he quickly unclawed the giraffe, and then as he hit the ground, he ran, because he knew that surely another kick is going to follow. But now when lions do hunt giraffe, they've got to change their strategy a little bit. They can't really afford to jump on the animal while it's up, because if they get kicked, they can kick out the teeth. The lion's teeth can make a lion go blind in a kick, or deaf, crack the skull, break legs, whatever the case may be, and that'll be tickets for that lion. So they soon learn that, okay, so the way we hunt antelopes is not quite the same as how we're going to hunt a giraffe. And so the lions will show themselves to the giraffe sometimes. The giraffe will see the lions, and the lions herd them into an area where it's going to be easier for them. Maybe the giraffe is going to trip over some drainage lines or some rocky areas. In the Kruger National Park, or the Greater Kruger National Park, there are some tar roads. A lot of the giraffes get caught by lions on the side of those tar roads, because the lions learn that the tar road is a very slick surface for a giraffe. And when chasing a giraffe at full speed and a giraffe is running, as soon as it hits that tarmac surface, it could slip. And if it slips and it falls down, you can almost guarantee it's going to break something on the way down. And then the lions overwhelm it and they pin it down, and then it's all over for that giraffe. So they've got to try and get the giraffe down. The giraffe is standing up, too risky. Morgan, you see the warthog there? just in front there by that termite mound there. It's never too far away. You know, a warthog always tries to jump in the frame. This is quite a lovely area for warthog, especially a little bit to the west of us. There's lots and lots of warthogs out there. Now, lions, especially in Amakhala, they love catching warthogs. So when I first started here at Amakhala, I can't remember if it was my third or fourth or fifth set of guests that I'd taken out for my chapter here in Amakhala. But we were watching a pride of lions, and another vehicle was waiting to come in. So we spent our time with those lions, and then we started to make our way out, and we called the next vehicle in. And as I was driving out, we just heard this massive scream. And so the lions had managed to spot a warthog, and they chased it into the fence line at Hlosi. Now the comical thing is that there were guests trying to sleep in. They had a long journey to go and they wanted to sleep in. And they got woken up abruptly at 6 o'clock in the morning by a warthog screaming. Blue murder. The next thing, the lodge got a phone call. And they wanted to know what is busy dying outside their room. And we had to explain to them that lions just caught a warthog. These guests were very surprised that so close to the camp. Yeah, it happens sometimes. Shame, this female giraffe is being really good to us. She's just sticking around. She doesn't mind being seen. The others have sort of moved off into the thicket. And she's actually the only one we can see currently. Look at that long tongue. Now giraffes, they've actually got a tongue that is measured to be anywhere between 30 and 45 centimeters long. Can you believe that? Shelly B, good morning and thanks. Very relaxing sighting, and we're sitting in the sun at the moment. It's actually starting to cool down quite a bit. It's starting to actually get cold over here. But today is not going to be incredibly warm like it was yesterday. Wow, yesterday we had a good hot day. It's just amazing how the weather changes from sometimes day to day, sometimes hour to hour here in the Eastern Cape. I'm sure you can hear that breeze that's just moving through here. Who knows what this afternoon is going to hold? I hope that this wind does disappear by this afternoon. If not, then it might just be very windy. One thing in the Eastern Cape, you have to get along with the wind because you just cannot avoid it. Andrew, the video guy, nice comment. Thanks a lot. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And I saw your video yesterday on your birthday wishes to Wild Earth. Oh yes, and happy birthday, Wild Earth. Hope you all have a wonderful day. But yeah, I saw your video, very nicely done there with the beach in the background. Yeah, I think you did a great job with that. It's amazing how much time has gone by from when Wild Earth first started. 16 years, 4 more years, it's going to be 20 years of this beautiful experience for all of you. And to see your loyalty over the years is just outstanding. And I knew, like, when I was first interested in applying at Wild Earth, which was in 2015, I heard from the other naturalists at the time. They were telling me a lot of you are very serious about it, and you write notes and you have little notebooks and all of that. And I thought that was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. What a wonderful idea. Green. You want the green light? So I was just chatting to Morgan. We're just turning our inverter on here. Okay, we're going to carry on. We're going to start making our way into the center of the reserve, but let's go to Ralph in the meantime and see what's happening at Ukukuyo.
Indeed, a little bit. It did have a giraffe coming down to drink, but it's had its fill and it's moved off. But now there's of springbok and zebra. So it's very, very busy for the time being. Let's just go in a little bit closer and have a look at some of these animals. Doesn't seem to be too windy. It's a lot more windy, I believe, where Andrew is, as well as at Djuma. There's lots and lots of wind. So at least it's a little bit calmer here in Etosha. Bit of clonking from the springbok there in front. Just lovely to see the sheer numbers now to increase every day as with dry season of Namibia, the winter months, right up in November. The rains can come a little bit earlier sometimes, but generally October is when they have the small rains. But up until that point, it's just gets drier and drier, and so you have the animals coming next to the water holes with more and more concentrations as the days pass. And as the days do pass, I'm still hoping to the Umbika pride of lions. I'm hoping that they do show themselves here. Normally, as they fly up, they sort of move from that southern area up here towards Okuyu, and then you get to see them a little often. So as the animal numbers here next to the waterhole, so does the chance of those lions showing themselves as well. And I have found that these lions seem to specialize in zebra. They obviously will take down other animals as well, but in them mostly taking down zebra. As you can see, there's lots of zebra around, and it's a good meal for a nice big pride plus strong pride. And there was also 2 males in coalition that sort of dominate this area. So if those 2 are still the dominant males, but we'll have to wait and see. If we do spot them, we'll find out if there's still those 2 that a few years ago were the dominant males. I didn't see the Umbika pride the last time I was here in Namibia at Etosha, which was just a couple of months ago, but it was still in the rainy season, so the animals were quite sparse, spread out, and you didn't see them in the concentrations that you're seeing already now, because there was a lot of water around. So you can, jeepers, with the change of season, you can go to Namibia. It's not recommended to go during the rainy season if you do want to see the concentrations of animals, because you can honestly think that it's a totally different park, and there's hardly any animals to be found. And it's because there's so much water spread around when the rains do come that they don't need to take the risk of coming to these particular points where the lions and predators may be lurking. But we do see a lot of the migratory birds, and it's really just a different kind of picture that you get of Etosha, because there's a lot of greenery and a lot of the Stipagrostis or Bushman grass that's growing, and this makes for beautiful landscapes, colors, birds, etc. So it's different when it gets a bit drier, and then we have all these animals really concentrated next to the water. Lots and lots of springbok coming in, and you can hear them with their typical call, like a frog.
On April 27th, Wild Earth will be celebrating a very special birthday. It's our sweet 16. We want to celebrate you, our viewers who have been with us every step of the way.
I just appreciate you so much.
Send in your birthday wishes so we can include you in the celebrations.
Happy birthday, Wild Earth!
Video yourself saying happy birthday to Wild Earth with a short note and share them with us on birthday@wildearth.
So just discussing a couple of the special birds that you get in Namibia, from the hornbills to the korans and the damara terns, the chats, the different chats, the special ones that you get here. Just think of some of the other ones. Track chat. That's one of my favorite little birds. A Cinderella waxbill. Here in Etosha, probably the most common birds that you'll see, apart from the sociable weavers and the crimson-breasted shrikes that you'll find around the camps. One of the little birds that I really like is a scaly feathered finch. More common birds, you get the red-billed buffalo weavers. They make the sticky nests, but you get the white sparrow weaver, and often along the telephone pole, any man-made structures, but they're also a messy nest, but it's all made out of trees that they do on those. So that's a special one, but they're not a true weaver because they don't tie a knot like with all the other the real or true. They're a very messy stick, or not unlike red-billed buffalo weaver that just makes it out of sticks. They make it purely glass, but quite a similar messy nest, all just spike coming out from all over the place, not tied up into a lovely nest like you might have from the mosses or the forest weavers like we get down in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. But the most impressive, obviously, being the sociable weavers and the largest nests in the world. And so those do make quite a big difference to the landscape, and you can spot those nests from miles away. And you very often see the remnants of them as well once they get too big and the branch that they're on breaks off the tree. And then you can see the big pile of grass on the ground. So they also only just use to build, but that's a real group effort. Lots and lots of couples that make their nest above the larger mass of grass, but sometimes it can even 4 meters deep, and then all the nests are at the bottom with the grass pointing down. And it does limit the amount of predators that can get in there. Alrighty, so as we watch the ebbs and flows here next to the Okukuyo waterhole and chatting about the special birds, I'll hold on to a couple of the other special birds that we'll chat about when you come back to me next. But I think it's time to head on over to Lauren in Madikwe to say good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a fantastic start at Clo Dam, my favorite raptor. I say this about a lot of birds, but really it is one of my favorites. And we have 2 of them. We will show you the other one in just a minute, but we have 2 martial eagles at Clo Dam. How cool is that? Most likely a monogamous pair. But I said afternoon and it's actually the morning. It's been a long morning. Good morning. My name is Lauren. Rian is on camera and the other martial eagle is right over there. You will often find them in pairs. They're quite strictly monogamous, and I haven't seen a martial eagle in a long time. I saw a juvenile in Juma in February, but I haven't seen ones like this in a really long time. We've been having an incredible time at Clo Dam. Lots of interactions, elephants just completely freaking out, martial eagles landing in the middle of the elephant herd. It's just been chaos. But naturally, it's quieting down now. And you can see that these birds are, wow, scanning with their incredible eyesight. We can see far, so you can only imagine what they see. I actually think it's not a monogamous pair. You were just looking at the juvenile with the white head, and the one that you're about to see has got a dark head. That's the adult. So I think it might be mama and offspring. The juveniles have sort of got a grey flecked head, but otherwise from a distance it looks really white. Whereas the adult has a really dark head and a really pure white chest. So it's an adult and a juvenile. I'm gonna guess mama. Oh, yeah, how cool is this? However, they are monogamous and you will often find them in their pairings. I remember working with many different monogamous pairs in the Masai Mara on the Mara Raptor project, and it was so incredible to get to know the different pairs. They were all tagged, and we used to get the GPS points when they'd made a kill, because they could tell by the acceleration rate and the angle of the tag when it was hunting. And basically, we had to go and investigate. And it was so exciting. I mean, the Masai Mara is huge, just like Madikwe. You can't be everywhere at once. But you used to get the coordinates and you were told to just go. So you used to go on this mission, and my goodness, sometimes you would find the birds, sometimes you wouldn't. Sometimes you would just find the kill. And very often it was something you just wouldn't expect. I remember arriving, I think it was the olive pair, and I found the male and the female, and then I found the kill and was horrified to see it was an impala ram. Do not underestimate these birds. No way. They're remarkable, and as horrible as this sounds, these birds are also responsible for taking children, babies from villages, which is awful. It's awful. Let's not think about that, but they're remarkable. If we go back to this one, Rianne, you can see the martial eagle with the elephants and the zebra. Another herd of elephants are arriving. But don't forget to send in your questions, otherwise it's just me rattling on about nothing. We want to hear from you, and we want to have some wonderful discussions between all of us. You don't want to hear me rattle off about nothing, I'm sure. Good morning, Darcy Miller. Good morning. Glad to have you with us. I am sure that you will ask some wonderful questions, Darcy Miller. You've been watching for a long time. I'm not sure how many years, but I have been hearing your name since I started, I think. And that was 5 years ago. Oh, look at this. Clodagh, elephant, zebra, martial eagle. It was a very quiet morning for us. It was really cold and really windy, but I have to say it feels like the wind's died down a bit. The sun's definitely popped its head out, and it feels like things are just getting a bit more active. But just touching back on the martial eagles, it's not to say they hunt impala rams all the time. That's not the case. Their diet is normally scrub hares, spring hares, mongoose, small antelope, klipspringers, steenbok, duikers. But that's still remarkable for a bird that swoops down from the air. Even young baboons are known to take young baboons, and they're also known to take cubs if they come across a small cub, like a lion cub, a leopard cub, or even a hyena cub. I just love them. I think it was a Mara Raptor project and our involvement with them, with Wild Earth, that just, I just fell in love with them. They're so streamlined and sexy and powerful and graceful and just unbelievable birds. I don't know if you can call a bird sexy, but I'm going to. Hello, elephants. You're a little bit late. It's 10:30. But that's okay. We'll forgive you. The other herd was very upset. I don't know if they saw a predator, but there was a huge reaction, chaos, and the elephants reacted, so the impalas reacted, then the zebra started freaking out, and it was just utter chaos. I don't know what spooked the elephants. Could be anything. It could be a predator. And because it's windy and it's been a cold morning, maybe they were just sensitive. There's the other one. This is the juvenile. Look how white it is on its head. It still looks huge. But I think it's a juvenile. I mean, these birds could probably knock you off your feet. An adult man, like Rian, I'm not a man, was standing. This bird can fly at you and honestly knock you off their feet, off your feet. Probably wouldn't be able to pick up Rian, but still, they're going to send you flying. It is the largest eagle in Africa, by the way. And you can just see it's huge. I mean, obviously we're giving you a long distance visual, but it's massive. Huge body size. I walk right in front of the car. This is just the best morning for me. I could sit and watch these guys all day. They were soaring earlier, and even in the sky, I mean, sorry about that. They are so huge. They're the largest eagle in Africa, and therefore, when you see them in the sky, it's this one's flying. Look, Rian is landing. This is a juvenile. You see, now we're getting a better look at those legs. It's a type of booted eagle. What's she gonna do? Those legs are fantastic. Eddie, martial eagles. Sorry, I'm just watching this because some of those piglets are really small. Martial eagles are native to sub-Saharan Africa. Yes, yes, they are. Look at that. Look at this. Look at the 3 different animals. Sorry, Eddie, I'm getting distracted. Sub-Saharan Africa, yes, and they are quite common within those regions of Sub-Saharan Africa. And I just haven't never, there's an elephant coming in from the right. I have never seen one in Madikwe. Wow. Wow, you're one brave bird. Oh my goodness. Completely stood its ground. Rian actually thought it was a secretary bird earlier, just from far away. Long distance visual is hard. Sometimes you need to get your binos out. But what I thought that was amazing because actually from a distance they do. Look at those legs and those huge bodies. You don't automatically think martial eagle. With those legs from far away, you think, oh, secretary bird. And it isn't until you sort of look closer you think, oh my goodness, no, it's a martial eagle. And the white looks so white. It looks crisp. It looks fresh and... It is a juvenile, but you can see he's really starting to darken on the crown of his head, so he's moving towards adulthood. And what do you want down there? They can also be confused with the black-chested snake eagle. Now, they are much larger than the black-chested snake eagle, but because of the appearance with the sort of plain white breast, if you like, and the darker head, you can confuse them for a black-chested snake eagle from far away. Martials are much bigger and they've got really unique features once you look closely. But birding can be so challenging. I can't do birding really without my binos. I'm getting old now, people, and my eyesight's not as strong. And I really need my binos, then I can identify the bird. But from a distance, I might only be able to say that's a raptor. I can't tell you what raptor it is, though, until I look at the features. Some people have really sharp eyesight and can do it from far away. As long as I've got binos, I'm fine. Nice, they're both on the tree now. Amazing. I'm going to guess it's mom and offspring. It's so cute. Andrew, the video guy. I have a funny feeling, Andrew, that you really like video and photos. Just guessing. And you're saying, what a beautiful bird to photograph. Absolutely. And film. We just don't see them too often. Yeah, you do see them in Juma, but it's not a sort of daily event. And I'm pretty sure this is my first one in Madikwe. I'm pretty sure. I feel like I've been in a lot of different countries and reserves over the past year that I do get a little bit confused sometimes, but pretty sure it's my first one, and there are two. But yes, Andrew, I agree. Beautiful, beautiful bird. But they are listed as vulnerable in South Africa on that IUCN red list. So the populations are decreasing. They're not terribly protected outside of sort of conservation areas, if you like. And of course, farmers and people in the local communities that are maybe a little bit scared of these birds, or maybe worried about their farm animals or their pets, maybe they persecute them. The populations are not stable in South Africa. This is honestly so lovely. And that's the amphitheater mountain in the background. It's not the actual amphitheater, it's on the other side, but it's the same hill, it's the same mountain. And look at this. Elephant, zebra. And every single organism that we can see is in its own bubble, its own Umwelt. Here we've got a huge mammal with a very uniquely adapted and specialized trunk. Then we've got another mammal in the background that's nothing like the mammal with the trunk and having its own experience around the waterhole. Then you have two of the most powerful and largest eagle of Africa. And then you have warthogs, all having their own unique experience. And I actually saved a quote for you, as I always do. Keep them in my phone. Stand by. Okay, it was regarding owls, but I really like the words and the message behind it. So, the owl is nocturnal with keen senses of sight and sound. It sees through the shadows of the night, and it hears the sounds in silence, the illusion of darkness. This teaches us to see past our own illusions, trust our own intuition and perceptive senses. It's a bit profound, I know, but I thought that's fascinating because even just regards to humans, sometimes we struggle to look past our own illusion. And here we're literally saying that an owl can see in the blackness. It can hear in silence. And of course, that's because that's our illusion of nighttime. We think that nighttime is silent or nighttime is dark. But that's just our perception, and sometimes we're so limited by that. And of course, it's not. Nighttime is definitely not silent. It's definitely not dark to some animals who can see perfectly at nighttime. So it's a little bit of a profound statement for us as humans, but also for the animal kingdom. Trust your perceptive senses. Because that is what guides us through life. We think it's our brain or maybe our heart. It's actually not. Our brain is powered and fueled by all the information that is gleaning from the senses. Whatever senses we are using. Even if one of our senses doesn't work, if we're blind or we're deaf or whatever, we can still function. Our brain just takes the information from the other senses. And that's really how we see our world. And that's why there's a lot of conflict in the human race, I believe, because people just perceive things differently, and that's okay, and as they should. But definitely in the animal kingdom, all these different species will perceive their world completely differently. And I personally believe when studying the animal kingdom or studying the natural world, that's one of the most important things you've got to take into consideration. You cannot compare species. Got a nice hare just about to walk past the car. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Look at you, little sassy pants at the end there. And I know it sounds... No drama already. I know it sounds so silly, this statement, but you only know what you know. It's that simple, and we only know what we know because of the information that we're gleaning from our senses. Even when we learn in school, it's what we're reading, it's what we're listening to, it's what we're feeling with our hands in practical work, and that is what causes us to learn, to grow. But you can't expect a sort of elephant who is highly chemoreceptive, highly olfactory, to even remotely be compared to a raptor up there that's highly visual. And in order to understand all the wonderful beings around us, we have to understand the world that they live in, because it isn't the same as ours. Anyway, I hope you liked that quote. Amy, you are loving the collection of wildlife. I know. And it will get more diverse. The kudu will come. The wildebeest will definitely come. I'm sure impala will come. There may be a jackal that will run through. You never know.
Towards the end of May, I'm going to be heading back to Djuma, which is one of my favourite places. Now, as many of you know, we need a little help keeping our operations going. For those of you who donate $100 or more, I'll take you on a private safari. It won't be entirely private, there may be 20 or so of you there, but you'll still be able to answer any questions that you might have. We'll visit all the places that you want to, and we'll look for all the characters that you'd like to see.
I love just watching species stand next to each other. Just re-emphasizes my point. Trying to look at everything in an interconnected way, but also in an isolated way. You also have to focus on each species as a species and understand that before you can start to understand or begin to or try to understand how interconnected everything is. Here we go. Nicely done, Rian. Wow. This is amazing. Darcy Miller, I did just mention this, but yes. Yeah, they are still decreasing, especially in South Africa, due to poisoning on farms, yeah. Unfortunately, they do attack livestock, they do attack small things, as I just mentioned. So there's probably a lot of fear of these birds in local communities, which I completely understand. They're huge. Wow. So yes, Darcy Miller, you are correct. Wow. I feel a lot when I watch soaring birds. It always makes me smile, even if I'm grumpy or I'm in a bad mood. Just watching a bird soar, I don't know, it just makes me smile. And again, I'm going to completely jump the gun here and probably anthropomorphize, and maybe it's not correct, but many of you are aware, I believe every animal experiences pleasure, absolutely. And when I see a bird soar like this together, I think this is parent and offspring. And look at them, they're playing, they're soaring together. That 100% must be pleasure. They are living their best life. This is fun, this is joy. Maybe I'm pushing it too far, I don't know, but I honestly, when I see a bird doing that, because they're birds and that's what birds do, they fly, but look at them flying together. This is tender, this is fun, this is joy. Sadly, I didn't get that name. My comms are not good, I'm afraid, but someone is complimenting your camera work, Rian. And I am too. Fantastic job. Soaring birds are probably one of the most difficult things for cameramen to film, especially when we've got a roof on. It's a little bit different from fish, Rian, huh? What is it? This, oh, look at them tumbling, tussling. This is just what you see when you see elephants tussling. This is it. I'm sure of it. They're raptors. They're the predators of the air. They own the aerial space, and that's what they're doing. They're having fun. They're not hunting right now. They're not scanning the landscape. And as far as I'm concerned, for me, you're welcome to give your opinion. This is just fun. Rianne, I don't even know how you are seeing these birds because I cannot see them with my naked eye. I can only see them through the monitor. I don't know how he's doing it. Even fish, and I'm saying this because Rianne and I work together on Dive Live, so Rianne and I both know fish very well. And even fish, it's been proven time and time again in so many studies, they play. They do things for fun. They do things that has no other explanation. It's not for food or reproductive success or survival skills, or it's fun. It's pleasure. And when you actually sit underwater and you just watch a coral reef, which I was so blessed to be able to do every single day of my life in the Maldives because the coral reef was my office. And you just watch these fish, they've all got personalities. And some of the things you witness are just unbelievable. You'll witness the youngsters just doing things to annoy the adults. You'll witness the adults chasing each other. You'll witness courtship. You'll witness tender bonds. And people think fish don't feel. To this day, some people think fish don't feel. And some people think that they have a 3-second memory. Sorry, what? You're telling yourself that because you're keeping it in a tiny, tiny glass tank. But in fact, fish are so intelligent and they do things for fun and they have family structure and they absolutely do feel pain. I'm vegetarian. I try to be vegan, but my life on the go is very, very difficult. Anyway, sometimes I'll ask, can I have the vegetarian menu? And the restaurant will say, but you eat fish, right? No, fish is an animal. I think fish are very difficult to relate to, but if you ever want to get to know a little bit more about them, I do suggest that book, What a Fish Knows. It's incredible. All animals do things for fun. I'll watch my dog sometimes and she'll just be, or she used to, she's passed now. She used to just sit on the beach whenever we would go to the beach in Edinburgh, which is on the coast, and she would just sit and watch the ocean and smell. You would just see her smelling. She was so stimulated and excited and enjoyed the smells of the beach so much. She just used to sit and watch and smell, and that was her having fun. This was as she got older, of course, and she wasn't the naughty beagle that she was as a puppy. Well, beagles are difficult. If you want a challenging puppy, go for a beagle. beautiful. You definitely live a life full of joy, don't you? Okay, as we continue to sit at Clo Dam, the dam of all dams, to see what else happens, we're going to send you over to the wonderful Mr. Ralph.
Thank you, Lauren. It seems very busy there in Madikwe, and it's also getting very busy here at the Okukuyu Waterhole. Now, something very interesting is that earlier on, we noticed that, some of the management of Etosha were here next to the waterhole, and then I noticed it was a dead zebra. Why it had died. It didn't look like there was anything wrong with it. Anyway, they moved the zebra and they've put it off onto the right-hand side. It's behind a tree. So obviously not being there, I can't ask the guys the questions of what's on, but it seems there is a viewer that's written in and obviously able to watch this Okukuyu waterhole overnight, said that it died last night. And that the hyenas and the jackals have been avoiding it. Now, it's very interesting to go down those lines because I've seen on occasion where there is animals that have died and the predators avoid it. Now, this asks an interesting question. Why would predators avoid some died? And in the times that I have investigated, and including now, sort of, just refreshing my memory too. And there's a couple of different theories as to why predators would avoid a carcass. The first one being animals that are struck by lightning, they emit ozone, which predators can smell. And so it's something that they then land up avoiding, and it has been observed that after animals are struck by lightning, there's a period of time that predators do avoid it, and they believe that it is because of this emission of ozone as a result of being struck by lightning. Now, there is a high prevalence of anthrax in the Etosha National Park, and it does go through, particularly so with zebra, and quite a number of zebra died as a result of anthrax, but it's not particularly prevalent in predators. So it's not passed on, or they don't get affected anthrax that badly. They can get a little bit ill from it, but they don't die like they do, especially. But as I say, I'm just not quite sure what the reason was of that zebra dying. And interesting, just to go down the hole of why would predators avoid. And there's also other cases where it has been shown that animals in different environments will avoid sick animals, even potentially in their own species. It's been dogs where they might have a particular parasite, and then the other frogs avoid that frog because it obviously emits a kind of smell, and so they do avoid it. But with the predators avoiding this zebra, it does ask the question, why? I don't really have the struck in the way in Etosha. It doesn't really lend itself to that there may have been a stranger things have happened. I am more of the opinion, being attacked, that it's more likely to have been anthrax. However, it's not really avoided by predators. Maybe just because it was still fresh, it hadn't been up, and so they left it. Sometimes things happen like that, but maybe as that carcass progresses and a little bit more smell in the press, such as and jackals will get stuck in there. But I'll keep on having a checkup where that carcass is and where it's been hidden, and then we'll see if there are any predators that come through. Right, so I'm going to keep on posing that question and keeping of all the different possibilities. While I try and answer, let's turn over to Andrew.
Thanks, Ralph. Yeah, I hope lots of animals come down to the waterhole on your side. Yo, we've got lots of animals on our side. We've got a nice big group of eland antelope. Look at this. And there's a massive bull inside there. Yo, he is huge. We actually came here the other day and there was just a handful of these eland over here. And I was wondering where this massive bull was, because he usually hangs around over here. He was probably in the thicket or somewhere feeding, who knows. But what counts is that he's here this morning. Look at him. His dewlap on the front of his chest almost looks like an elephant's ear. Almost touching the ground. He is beautiful. So by the looks of it, looks like he's really interested in mating. So he's going to be smelling some of the females, I'm pretty sure. We're just going to wait and see. But often, when they're moving around and they're grazing, you're going to have this big male, sniffing their backside a little bit to smell if there's any sign of pheromones. Oh, I can even hear him clicking his hooves. Whoopsie. Not like that. This is a great place for these eland. They love coming here. They spend a lot of time here. There's lots of grass, and ultimately this is a nice little sunny spot for them. So they do like this area. If I had to guess, I would estimate his weight to be probably around 800 kilograms. He's a big boy, that. I'm sure you can see the shadows coming and going just past the eland. These are the clouds. They are moving with such speed at the moment. Some of them are rain clouds, but I don't think we're going to get any rain. With this wind blowing these clouds, I think most of these rain clouds are going to get blown out of the Eastern Cape. So I'm not sure if you can see with that bull eland over there, but as he's licking his leg over there, you'll notice that he's got like these quite well developed hairs on his head, which are standing upright. So what that is for them to actually, they release a lot of scent out of those hairs over there, and most particularly the testosterone. So they release that out there, and often enough, females will pick up on that smell. If they're around and he's around, they're definitely going to smell that he's in his prime, that he's full of testosterone, he's very mature, and hence the reason why he's so dark. And that's the first thing that Morgan said to me when we came in here. He said, look at him, he's so dark. Now, I have seen eland mating before. It's a very, very quick process. So he mounts her, of course, but it doesn't last very long because, you know, with these big bulls, they outweigh the females by a lot, by a good few 100 kilograms. And so the mating process is very, very short, the mounting process rather. It's quite awkward for them. Oh, Morgan, do you see that female with her horn sticking out right next to the male? Ah, she's just turned her head now. I hope she turns towards us. Shame, she's got a little bit of a funny horn growing there. It's been damaged at some point, probably when she was quite young, and the horn sort of malformed. That's the word, a malformation of the horn. So if it does get damaged from a young age, then the horn still grows, but it just doesn't grow how it normally would, and it sticks out to the side. Look at that. That is crazy. Yeah. Shame, there used to be a female eland here in Amakhala. I don't know if she's still around, but she had a horn that was literally hanging and dangling. It looked like an earring, and it was dangling by a thread of skin. Good morning, Grant. Thanks for your question, Grant. There's a few ways, but the main way is through challenging the other males. The younger males are going to be very respectful of the bigger bulls because they outweigh them by a good number. And a good way for them to display their dominance is, one, is releasing testosterone and making it known. So it's all very well that they release testosterone, but if that scent isn't picked up by other bulls, or if his color isn't altered in some way, then it would be pointless, wouldn't it? And so in a dominant state like this bull very much is, he's going to be much darker than the rest, and he's going to stink of testosterone. We might not be able to smell it, but make no mistake, the elands will smell it. And then challenging other males, and he will, you know, looking at his sheer size, unless he finds a bull of his own weight ratio, anything lighter than him is going to be at a massive disadvantage. He's powerful. You can see it. He looks almost like a bull cow in a way. Now, he's not going to mate with one of these females. He's going to mate with as many as he possibly can. But he's got a big job ahead of him. Think about it. He needs to isolate females, mate with them, sometimes, you know, challenge other males, and then also maintain his mass. So he needs to feed, he needs to drink water, etc., etc. But if you look at the rutting season of impalas, the male impalas, the rams, they get so preoccupied with mating with females and herding the harem, not eating enough, not drinking enough water, that they lose condition daily. They become skinny, they become quite thin eventually. So he's going to have to try and maintain that mass. And he's not even moving, and his dewlap is flapping around. Incredible. Now that dewlap is also going to be a good indicator to younger bulls as well as the females that he's strong. The bigger his dewlap, the more attractive he's going to be. Now you can see he's busy smelling that one female. He's been smelling her quite a bit now. And just by looking at him, he's got lovely genetics, and I can't wait to see any calves in the future. They're definitely going to be strong. Ooh, Lenny, I'm not 100% sure on that. A lifespan of an eland. I'll check it up for you, but if I was to guess, I would say, maybe 15 years? Between 12 and 15 years? Okay, about 15 to 20 years. Incredible. That's something new for me. Thanks, Lenny. Yeah, no, that's a good lifespan. Hey? 20 years old, up to. That's a long time. Yeah, I have no idea how old this bull is. It's going to be difficult to understand how old he is. But if any of you have any idea how old he is, maybe you've got a bit more information on that, please tell us. Yeah, I love these questions that come through because, you know, we do study the nature and we've studied it quite extensively, but there's always going to be a lot of things that we don't know. And through your questions, I mean, that's ultimately how you challenge us and how you get our brains thinking and how we learn. So Lenny, if it wasn't for you asking me that question this morning, I would never have really realized unless I'd sort of read up on it. So really appreciate your question. And it gains to my experience as well. So awesome stuff. But yeah, let's talk about the experience of Wild Earth. We want to know how we can better the experience for you all. So there's actually a Wild Earth survey going around. If you want to give it a sign, it's totally up to you. That's going to be found on the website. So just wildearth.tv/survey. And through that, we'll get a lot of information from that and we get to understand all of you better. And then we can better the experience. Oh, he's got magnificent horns. They all do, but his is so thick at the base. So now you can sort of see the difference between the males and females in the horns. The males are going to have much thicker horns at the base. And this is the general rule with all antelope, that females also bear horns. Males will have much more pronounced horns than that of females, especially towards the base, because we know why. They need to fight for breeding rights of the females, which is a task in itself. And then also they're going to need to defend themselves, and the females as well. They're going to need to defend themselves from predators, and that's where these horns are going to come in. But as you can see, it's a very, very open environment, and they're going to be very vulnerable here. Even though it's nice and sunny and lots of grass, you know, if a predator walks on top of the hill and looks down at them, they're going to know exactly where they are. And so they need some sort of defense. What a beautiful antelope eland are, aren't they? But I believe Lauren has also got some antelopes. Let's go see what those are.
Thank goodness we didn't miss it, everyone. Look at this. A very unusual sighting for Madikwe. Yes, I know you see them in Amakhala and Kgariga and maybe the waterholes, but Madikwe you don't. I think we had 6 gemsbok drinking. Sadly, they're all finished. It was too late. But isn't that amazing? I've never seen gemsbok at Madikwe Game Reserve. Rian did once, I believe, with Andrew, briefly, but I've never seen them, and I've definitely never seen them come to a waterhole. This is amazing. They're very shy here. In Amakhala, it's a little bit more open in the Carnarvondale side, so you can see them. We can sort of spend time with them. But this is really unusual for Madikwe and very exciting. We've had the Marshall eagle and then now the Gemsbok. Magnificent beasts. Huge animals, and I mean, this is a long distance visual. We don't want to go closer because they'll just run away. But you can already see those spears on top of their head. The Marshall eagle also chased off the grey heron. Oh, we were very worried, but the grey heron is fine. It's fine. But there was a bit of an altercation between the two of them, so it's all been happening here. It was amazing. It was so amazing to see them drink. They're not too water-dependent animals. They're very adapted for arid, desert-like environments, but of course they will drink. I'm just so shocked. I'll miss this dam. When we do move back to the east, we may not come here every day. We will if we can, but it's far. It's just the best dam ever. Wow, look at that. Oh, Gemsbok Impala. It's actually, oh, Rian, just put the cherry on the top there. I think that's Chemi's gone. Well, I thought that was very special. And you can just, oh, Rian, another one of Rian's favorite birds. He loves guinea fowl and lapwings. And there you have it. There are two. The lapwings. Look at this one's tusk. And covered in mud. Now it is a tricky time, and Madikwe are very on top of the fact that animals might get stuck in water. When we were at the buffalo carcass yesterday, the Northwest Parks Board actually did come to investigate. They came to see the situation because the buffalo itself had got stuck and died. And it wasn't really on a prominent road in a prominent area. It wasn't picked up straight away. Now, the worrying thing is that if one animal got stuck, naturally a carcass is going to attract a lot of attention. Lions, brown hyena, spotted hyena, jackals, all sorts of animals. And it's worrying that if the buffalo is stuck in the mud, that other animals could get stuck in the mud. So the sort of Northwest Parks Board manage Madikwe, and they're very on top of the fact that the season is changing. Water is getting less and less, and muddy areas are becoming very prevalent. If we can just go back to this muddy patch, Rian. So you can see the elephants are in here because they love it. They love to wallow, they love the mud, they love the coolness, they love the water. And these elephants will be fine, don't worry, but maybe once it gets drier and drier and drier, but also so hot that there could be situations that animals could get stuck. So just let me tell you, none of these elephants are stuck, but there is a heightened vigilance to making sure that no animals do get stuck, because you don't want that. Nature should always sort of play out, but obviously when you do encounter difficult situations such as drought, it's a really tricky one to know what to do. Because you could have many animals getting stuck. You could have that buffalo, then you could have 20 hyenas, then you could have a lot of jackal, maybe even some pied crows and vultures, and it could be a really bad situation. So there's just a heightened vigilance for that. But these elephants are just living their best life, don't worry. More zebra. Everybody has their own little spot, their own little part of the dam that they like to come down and drink. It's a huge dam. It's not as big as Chitwa. If you do follow the Djuma drives, I'm trying to compare it to Gowrie Dam. Maybe similar size to Gowrie Dam. And each animal, of course, knows that they're going to bump into other animals when they come down to water. Having their own experience as they go. Using their own unique set of senses. And I hear so often that famous statement, because I think it was written in one of the textbooks, I don't know which textbooks, about elephants have a sense of smell that is 5 times stronger than a bloodhound, and it just doesn't make sense. Break it down. Break down what you're reading. What is it that statement is trying to say? And it just doesn't make sense, because the two species are not comparable and their sense of smell is not comparable. With each sense, there is pros and cons. Each sense and stimulus that we receive from that is sort of useful in some situations, but not in them all. Think about us. And that's why animals, every animal that you see, every animal taps into as many streams of information that a sort of nervous system can handle, if you like. And they'll use the strength of one sense at that point in time to compensate for maybe the weakness in another. We do the same. When it's nighttime, I don't think we're consciously aware of it. Obviously, we've got lights and street lights and torches, but even in South Africa, when load shedding hits and you're not ready for it, you can get a fright. You're plunged into darkness. Ugh! And we don't realize it, but once our eyes are compromised, we really sort of tune into the information that's coming in from our ears. And our hands, if you're trying to feel, where did I leave the candles? Animals do the same. But it's never the same. They're constantly changing. But if one sense is compromised or not useful at that moment in time, they'll tune into the other. But what's important to recognize here is that no single organism, from the tiniest of insects to the largest of elephants, is using a single sense, exclusive to the other, if that makes sense. Every animal is using all their sensory domains at one time to collect as much information as they can at one time. And I think it's important we don't forget that. We humans like to isolate vision, okay, cool. Hearing, yeah, cool. But they're using a sort of complete mixture of all the senses that they can at that time to glean information about what's going on in their environment. And I've used these examples before, but think about dogs, because we all know dogs so well, or most of us do. Dogs are absolute masters of smell. We know that. We always see them sniffing. They sniff everything. Sometimes a little bit too much. But think about their large ears. They're also masters of hearing. We sometimes forget that because we think, oh, there's a grey heron alive and well. Owls are masters of hearing. But think about their large eyes. Jumping spiders, think about all 8 eyes they have, huge eyes in comparison to their head. Yes, it's tiny in comparison to us, but in comparison to their head, they have huge eyes and they have 8 of them. But they're also really sensitive to surface vibrations traveling through their feet. Seals use their whiskers, right? They have whiskers. In the ocean, they have whiskers. And they use them to sort of track the hydrodynamic wakes of fish, if you like. That's how they hunt. But they're not using that alone. They can also see it and they can also hear underwater. So each sense complements each other and works together and combines. And think about humans. Some people experience synesthesia. And it's when different senses sort of bleeds into the other. And some people, sounds have textures, sounds have colors. To some people, there are records of words having tastes. I recognize this. I see smells. I see smells as color. And I still don't know whether I get it from my mom. If it learns behavior, my mom does it. My mom experiences that world. Do I take it from her? Or is it a real condition? But either way, this sort of perceptual blurring, if you like, is quite unique among humans. Not everyone experiences it. But it's actually standard in the animal kingdom. Perceptual blurring. It's a great phrase, actually. And if you think of a platypus, they have a duck-like bill. And it contains lots of receptors in that bill. It's not just for eating. And some receptors are highly specialized and they actually detect electrical fields, electrical impulses. But in that same bill, other receptors are really sensitive to touch. But in the brain, the neurons that receive signals from both are the same. And they actually wonder if the platypus might have a single sense of electro touch. All of these senses blurred into one has formed a sense called electro touch. In mosquitoes, they have special neurons that are responding and acting and perceiving temperature, but also chemicals for chemical reception. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's blurred, and when we look at these animals, we shouldn't say things like, an elephant's sense of smell is 5 times better than a bloodhound's. You're not making sense. It's not comparable. It doesn't fit. You just need to talk about the elephant's sense of smell in comparison to elephants and how it fits in with their world and all their other senses. I think sometimes we take statements from books, as we all do, because that's how we were brought up, but actually it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Is the sense of smell 5 times stronger? Do they have 5 times the number of chemoreceptors? Can they smell 5 times further? What is it that statement is trying to say? It doesn't work. should really be skeptical of any claim that actually pits one animal's sense of smell or any sense against another. It doesn't work. That sort of comparison will always be flawed. It's not quantifiable. We need to just look at that one species and stop trying to compare it to another of a completely different type of animal. Starbuck! What do you think they're doing? They're smelling. Quite simple. They're smelling into the air. It's directional. So when they put their trunks down, sometimes they're trying to glean chemicals that have been deposited on the ground, urine or feces or any sort of chemical message. When they turn their trunk towards you, they're trying to smell you. When they put their trunk up, they're trying to smell airborne chemicals in the wind, in the air. They're just smelling. They do have incredible sense of smell, and I'm not going to compare it to a bloodhound because it doesn't work, but it is incredible, and that's of course one of the amazing things that makes an elephant an elephant. And they do navigate in that chemical world. Will it be the same chemical world as a dog? No, absolutely not. They will understand and need to read and perceive different chemicals. An elephant needs to understand the chemical sort of communication from another elephant. Bull and must, cow and estrus, distress, excitement, danger. Kin, need to recognize your kin, need to recognize your herd. I always say the pachyderm perfume, I love it. I didn't make that up, it's from a scientific paper, but I love it. Companions, strangers. Death. An elephant doesn't need to worry about the chemical communication of a dog. Doesn't need to worry about how to identify other dogs from the dog's feces or how to identify packs by smelling their urine. A dog is a dog, and they'll need to understand that. They don't need to sort of understand the same world. So their senses and their sense of smell will be very tuned into being an elephant. A leopard needs to recognize other leopards. Who's the enemy? Who's the threat? Have I mated with this female before? Have I not? Are they my offspring? They don't need to recognize individual elephant herds. That's pointless.
Wild Earth family, we need you to become a Wild Earth explorer so we can continue bringing the magic of nature to people all over the world who can't afford to pay. Everyone deserves the right to enjoy nature. Please help us make a difference by paying a small monthly amount. Join us in giving back to our planet by supporting this worthy cause. Let's forge a special connection between people and nature, inspiring conservation efforts worldwide.
watching these two play is adorable. Oh, dear, life's tough. Oh, Sib, life is hard. Oh, woe. Woe is the itchy elephant. The elephant that itched. I think I shall write a children's book about it. And on each page, the little elephant will find a new way to scratch. Oh, he's given up. Given up the ghost. Yes, that's right. Forgot I had a book. An African green pigeon feeding its baby. How cool is that? That's why I wanted to risk this signal patch to feed this baby. No, it doesn't look comfortable at all.
His back leg is not in a good space. Aaron, I'm not sure. The lesions, looks like it might be abscesses. I don't think the beating that this guy's had is the first one, but that back right leg is dripping. Unless he's urinated on it, it looks like it's an open wound there, and he's really not putting any weight on it.
Well, we've just got more and more animals coming in here at the Okukuyu waterhole, particularly the springbok. Lots and lots of them. So I'm just going to try. I know there's so much going on, I hardly know where to go. But it looks like a little bit here on the left-hand side is where the most activity is. So let's go in and have a closer look. Wonderful springbok. You can hear them as well. Lots of activity. Nice to see that there's some gemsbok coming down to drink there at Madikwe. It's semi-arid there, so nice environment for them too. And I think here in Etosha is where they're most at home. Along with the springbok as well. You see these males here in the foreground. The one closest to us, nice thick horns. And then compare that to the females. There's one just passing it. Another one coming in, very thin. So that is the best way to tell between them. It's just a hive of activity right now. And lots going on. We'll see some interaction between the males too. They're getting a little bit less tolerant of each other as the days get shorter. Still no more sign of any elephants. The dung here in the foreground is from a few days ago, and I don't see any fresh stuff, so I don't think they've been around. But we can expect them to start reappearing in the days and weeks to come as they make the turn from the eastern side of the reserve. Seems like the wind, though, is affecting across all the locations. I think here at Okukuyu might be where there's the least amount of wind. And it does seem to be quite hot as well. You see lots of the animals going into the shade. It's towards midday, hottest part of as well. Carol, yeah, that's a good question. It will be at its busiest in around the September, October months. If you're talking seasonal wise, generally on a day to day basis, normally around midday, but heading September, October, November, depends when those first rains come, then it slowly dissipates. But the longer or the later the rains come, the busier it gets. So sometimes it can even go into November, December. But as soon as those rains come and there's pools sort of across the reserve, then the animals do spread out from this particular area. But if you go in November and it hasn't rained yet, or even December as well, and it hasn't rained, it's going to be the best time of all. But generally, sort of September, October, and November is when the rains start. So you can mostly guess that that's the best time to go. And it also is coincided with the high season as a result of that, because all the animals are concentrated around the water holes. And this one is permanent, so it does attract an army of animals, particularly when it's very dry in those months of September, October, November. And then as the rains come in, yeah, they do spread out again. But it's amazing because you almost can't believe the amount of animals that you will see here in those months. And then as soon as the rains do come, it's like a completely different reserve. The animals just almost disappear. It's crazy because I've gone right through the years, different seasons, and yeah, from one trip to the next. I was doing 2 trips a month in Namibia, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks. I was on for 9 months, off for 3 months. And we always used to be off from around the middle of December till in March. But through all that time, sometimes when you're in November and I did a trip and it would be packed. And just in the time that I was away, there would be a couple of cloud bursts and I would return and it's like the animals have just vanished. And it's crazy that's where I also learned that you got to be careful in managing the expectations of your guests, because I would, have been on one trip and just say to the guests how amazing it was, how many animals we saw. It was incredible. And then when we get there, it's a little bit disappointing because it's rained and the animals have all spread out again. So I used to, after I experienced that and the disappointment of the guests, I used to just be careful in how I would the guests what to expect. Learned through experience. Lots and lots of zebra coming in now as well. And it just seems to increase as the days go on now. Just amazing. I'm going to try and get in a little bit closer on these zebra. There we go. Look at that. And the photography would just be stunning. Even now, in the middle of the day, you can still get fantastic shots if you get right in zebra while they're drinking. This makes for a lovely kaleidoscope of color and contrasts. And then calling off in the background as well. are very thirsty, and that's as a result of them having to walk very long distances to get to the water and then return to very good feeding grounds. So they might come in about twice a day and drink. Depends on how hot it gets during the day, but when they do come in, you can see they really take on a lot, as much as possible. So Yvette, that's a question that a lot of people ask. Why do these animals go into the water seemingly with no danger? Well, it's just an inherent behavior because when they're born, the animals come down here, and the adults are taking them into the water, from their first time. So they don't have a fear of this water, and obviously the adults don't have a fear of this water because there's no crocodiles present. There's no hippos either. Not that hippos are too much of a danger to animals, but they can give them a fright, and bulls would sort of make a bit of noise and push animals a bit away from the water. So, but it's generally down to the presence of crocodiles, which there haven't been here for thousands of years. So the animals are, inherent in that behavior. They follow the adults, and so for them, it's just a normal behavior to go into the water and drink. And I think it does definitely. You can see the brown, muddy nature of the area next to the shore. So I think they do prefer the nice or the cleaner water in the middle, which probably tastes better, and it doesn't have that lot of suspended solids. So that's where they move into the middle, and I think it also does help with the thermoregulation. So it's a nice cool off. At the same time, you're getting a drink and replenishing your thirst. But yeah, it's just passed on through the generations, and all the animals are just copying the parents and the adult group, and so everybody just enjoying because they've never had that around the water in Etosha National Park. Now you might see that vehicle moving in the back. It was the guys that were dealing with this dead zebra that was next to the water, apparently having died last night. Not what the cause of it was, and not sure why they moved it away from the water, but I'm sure they have their reasons, and I don't know why that animal died. My best guess is from anthrax, which is prevalent in zebra. And they actually say that the more rain there is, the more prevalence of anthrax there is. And you have deaths in Etosha on a yearly basis as a result of anthrax. But it's not something that wipes out massive population or a lot of numbers. It just sometimes rears its head and then goes away. But it's always present, and it's a naturally occurring bacteria, and it's spread by spores. But what you do find is where zebra, and that's maybe why they moved it, where an animal dies, it might be a zebra, for instance, and in this case was, you often find them actually dying on dust bathing sites. And what they have noticed when a zebra dies on a dust bathing site, there's a lot of like what Lauren was speaking about with the giraffe carcass. There's a lot of nutrients leached into the soil, but there's also a lot of moisture that does go through into the ground, and so it literally turns that area much harder state. So there was always the different ideas as to why the zebra visit that dust bathing site after an animal has died there. There was the theory that they could tell that a diseased animal died there, and so they stayed away. But through more studies, and a lot of students have done different studies in the Etosha National Park, they actually now believe that it's a lot simpler than that. in that in fact it makes that area much harder, even up to 4 or 5 years later after a carcass has died in a particular spot. It can literally remain like concrete because of the addition of that moisture and the nutrients and mineral salts, etc., that have been leached into the soil in that spot, has changed the complexity of the soil. So, the belief now is more so that it's just not a very good site for dust bathing anymore, and so the zebra then choose somewhere else. Whether after that 4 or 5 years it starts crumbling up again and turning more into a better dust bathing site is something that I'm not quite sure on. Maybe it does then return, and then the animals start dust bathing there, but by which time they would have had other areas where they would have started to use a dust bathing site. So sometimes it can seem a little bit more simple when we like to make it complex. And animals, I believe they are a lot simpler sometimes than we believe. We try to make it very complex in the ways that they decide to do things. But I think on a day-to-day level, a lot of the animals are just thinking purely, according to their requirements of the day, and not really thinking much further than that. We got some oryx coming in. Always nice to watch them as well. And the constant croaking of the springbok. See, and then you can always see sometimes there's just something that spooks one of them, and then the rest just, from the anti-predator traits, they immediately react to any animal's sort of startled nature or behavior. Just the contrasts are also spectacular, from the oryx to the springbok and the zebra. Very special. There's so much going on. Constant flow of animals. Starting to get to the best time of year here in Etosha, and from here on out it's just an absolute spectacle coming to Okukuyu. The more and more animals come, the more we do start to see the predators also frequent this area, because there's always an opportunity. If you're a jackal and you just keep hanging around here, there's always somewhere there's going to be a chance for getting some food. And particularly so when the springboks start dropping their babies in about 6 months' time, then you start to see a lot more jackals around here. They are also very good camp thieves, so they're probably frequenting the campsite and stealing people's food. The zebra now have moved off. Well, but they'll be replaced by another wave of animals, I'm sure. We'll also start to see quite a bit more blue wildebeest that also will return to this area. And now lots more zebra coming into that spot. I often just zoom out just to make sure I'm not missing anything special. While we tucked in on one spot, you can miss what's happening around. We don't have that peripheral view that we might have if we were actually there. It's on that side where I often see the jackals just running up and down, waiting for any chance of a meal. Whether it be, and as I say, many times having seen them hunting springbok as well. They kind of relax around the jackals and don't really bother with them, just trotting up and down. And that's why they call them the tricksters and the pranksters, because they seem to be, inobtrusive. They're not really making a menace of themselves, but then everybody relax around them, and then suddenly they just grab onto a springbok, and then you'll see other jackals coming in immediately as well. But no jackals for now. If any of you viewers that are watching now have ever been to Etosha, where is your favorite waterhole? And let us know about your experiences that you've had there. I sort of get the feeling that not too many people have actually visited Etosha, as people are often very surprised with the kind of animals that we get here, the kind of environment that they're living in, etc. But it's nice to hear from other people that have also been there and the experience that they had. What time of year was it, and where did you go? Okukuyu, Halali, Namutoni. There's a couple of new camps now too that I haven't been to. It was always only those 3 camps. And then the western side was closed to the public. It was only open for research. But now that's been opened up to tourism, there's a lot more people moving through there as well. So it's interesting to hear if there's any accounts of very good sightings. These springbok are going all the way in. And obviously if there were crocodiles, that would be an extremely easy meal. Just the photographs you can get on these zebra when they're drinking and they're all in a line like that, it's, yeah, makes for a lovely tapestry. Photo full of stripes. And I think that the best time around this waterhole is at sunset. So different game reserves, very often, I would say the majority of the time, the best time in game reserves is in the early mornings, because you generally have to wait quite a lot after sunset for, a lot of activity. But I find here at this particular waterhole, it's the best around sunset, and the sun setting in the distance straight off behind or straight ahead. As I just lift the camera up a bit there, it will dip right over the waterhole here. So it is incredibly beautiful, and the reflections, the colors, it just changes from the pinks and blues. It's just something out of this world. It's spectacular. So for me, the best time of day here at this particular waterhole is sunset. And you often have the nocturnal animals coming down just after the sun has set as well. Hyenas, lions, jackals. You can have some of the owls coming to drink as well. And so that for me is the best time. Nice to get a sunrise out of the tower and a lovely viewpoint. But then sunset here at the waterhole. Starbuck, yes. Not all zebra. These Birchall's or plain zebra need to drink every day. So they're water dependent. The Hartmann's mountain zebra, however, different, more of a desert adapted species and doesn't need to drink every day. In fact, they can go a few days without water. But they've got a little bit more special adaptations to surviving in a water scarce environment, like with a lot of the other desert animals, the oryx, the springbok. They've got white stomachs, so they don't have those stripes going all the way through, and that's assisting in thermoregulation, along with the dewlap that they have, or the thermoregulatory adaptation. And so with all of that, that assists in keeping the body temperature at a premium, but it's not necessarily always keeping it cooler. Like with actually, the body actually heats the surface temperature of their skin, because core body temperature remains cooler. So it's not necessarily just being cool across your body that is better for thermoregulatory processes. Sometimes just keeping a regular temperature is better than a fluctuating temperature, and sometimes that requires it being higher than you would expect. But the adaptations of those particular desert animals then requires less from them to keep their body cool, or and also limiting moisture or water loss, because you've got to pant and you've got to try and keep cool in those extreme temperatures, which the Birchall's zebra doesn't have those exact adaptations. So they need to work harder, and also replenish the water that they dissipate in these extreme environments. So they really need to drink a lot more. They're not as specialized as the springbok and oryx and mountain zebra, but as a result of them being a more generalized animal, that's why you find them across many different habitats and geographical locations, whereas the real specialized animals, you don't find them as well distributed as the likes of the plain zebra. You would also say impala as well, very good generalists. They're not specialized as a lot of the animals are, but that means that they're a lot of different locations and in many different habitats. And the very specialized carotid reed system of the gemsbok, it is present in some of the other animals like springbok as well, but not as specialized as in the oryx, which is cooling the blood to the brain in that very intricate nasal passage system with all the different arteries that they have there. And so that's a very, very technical specialist part of the oryx's body that helps them survive in these extreme temperatures. But just the perfect antelope. Whenever I look at them, it's just, they are the epitome of a perfect animal, I always think. Look at that. The markings are spectacular. The horns are just perfect. So, just such a perfect view on this oryx or gamsebok or gemsbok. But I know that Lauren had some coming down to the waterhole. I'm not sure there's any there, but who knows? Let's go on over to her and have a look.
Gemsbok everywhere today. Lucky for sure. Our Marshall was back, but he's gone again. I say he, I don't actually know if it's a he or a she. I read a book that you actually shouldn't automatically, humans tend to say he and we shouldn't. It's not about the bats. Adam Cruz, highly, highly recommend it. But we do still have our elephants. And the sun is getting very, very hot. It's actually creeping on me on the vehicle right now. Sorry, Rian, that was my fault. I made the vehicle shake. But it really has been such a wonderful sighting at Clo Dam today. I mean, two of my favorite birds. One is just walking into frame right now. The Marshall Eagles, definitely my first sighting at Madikwe of them, and it was a great one. Gemsbok, first time for me in Madikwe. You saw them once before, Rian, right? Mm-hmm. Just once, okay. So all in all, it's not a common sighting. Definitely didn't catch that name, I'm afraid. But Clo Dam never disappoints. It doesn't. I have come here and it's been really quiet before, but all in all, it's a very iconic dam of Madikwe. It's very sort of famous in this area, and it is because it's always so active, and mostly with elephants. That's the Clo right there. But it's in a prime spot, surrounded by the mountains, and it's just very, very active, especially in winter. So it's going to get a lot more active once all the water holes slowly dry out. The young ones get very upset, even at the butterflies. And it's so nice to see the butterflies still. I think it's a brown-veined whites, the one that are clinging on. They did their fluttering migration, and they're still clinging on despite the temperature drops. And a butterfly is very upsetting if you're a young elephant. can never just stop watching. It's always so fascinating here, and it's turned into the most glorious day from what was a challenging morning. But as we sit with the Clough at Clough Dam, we're going to send you guys back over to Okakoyo.
Well, back at Okakoyo, and I'm going to go in here because we've got a swimming springbok. Who would have thought? Looks like it's really enjoying itself. I think it's a case of mistaken identity. It wants to be like that little grebe. Looks like it's quite a good swimmer as well. The grebe doesn't look like it's too happy with the springbok swimming around. Maybe it is. Maybe it wants to join it. Look at that. Going back and forth. Doing some laps. What are you up to?
Wild Earth's mission is an expensive one, but we know that our live experience is important to so many people that cannot afford to pay for it. We have added a donate button to our website. By donating, you are directly helping us share our free nature experiences with the world. We want Wild Earth to reach children, budding conservationists, and the less fortunate. A little money goes a long way. You can make a difference to someone today.
Let's just go out and see if there's anything visiting on the left that we're not maybe missing. I haven't seen any black-faced impala today. There were some kudu, but no impala. Maybe they've decided to go and drink at the Umbika waterhole. A couple of clouds around, I see there. But still a mystery as to why that zebra died. And when you look at the waterhole from this perspective now, when I've zoomed out, when I speak of the sunset, it actually reflects on over the waterhole as well. So you can imagine the colors and the reflections, especially when you've got a lot of animals coming down to drink as well. And the photography is just amazing. So, yeah, I think Namibia in general is a photographer's dream, especially landscapes. But when you're in Etosha, it just changes everything, and very different to any other national parks. Nothing can compare to Namibia, and Loch in particular. Those zebras seem to be just having a little bit of a dispute. I think that's maybe a couple of opposing harem stallions. Maybe just had a bit of a go at each other. They didn't seem to be spooked. I think they were just being pushed around by the males. And constant calling as well. There in the background, you can see what we call a dust devil. Those miniature whirlwinds or little tornadoes. But normally when it gets very hot, then you start to see those. And they're incredible when you see them out over the Etosha Pan itself, because some of them go, over 1 kilometer into the sky, and it's got that white soil with it. So it's also spectacular and amazing for photography too. I've seen some beautiful photographs over the pan itself, particularly when there is a bit of rain clouds around, but off in the distance, and then you have these dusty foreground, and all the contrasts that go with it. It's just amazing. So mainly, if you want to see predators, it's more so in the evening. So when the spotlight is on here, and it does really light this whole place up, so you can actually see them quite clearly. And there's also, you don't really have this amount of activity that you have during the day at night, but it is still heavily used by all the predators in the area. Lots of spotted hyenas here as well. You see them coming down to drink, and often having a wallow and a swim as well. Not being scared to go in the water like the animals, with there not being any crocodiles. Almara, yeah, this is one of the best places in the world to see black rhino. It's been a little bit quiet on their part, but nice to hear that you were here in 2012 and watched them. The most I've seen here next to this waterhole was 18, and at one time they were all here, and I've seen lots of interaction between the territorial males, lots of fights. I've actually seen one fight to the death, which I've given accounts of a couple of times. And also what I find very interesting is the interaction between black rhino and the elephants, especially elephant bulls, young bulls, because the black rhino don't really stand down. And here also, being the Diceros bicornis, it's the largest of the black rhino. And with the aggressive nature that they have, and interacting with elephants, it's sometimes incredible. The black rhino can charge the elephants, and normally if it's a young bull, they're quite scared and they run off. If it's a bit of an older bull and a bit more experienced, they humble the rhinos, and I've seen that here as well. So it's always amazing to watch, when those two massive beasts collide. It makes for interesting viewing. But it's also, these animals need to work very hard for their food and their resources. So you do find where there is more hardship, animals are hardier, they're fitter, they're stronger. And if you compare that to the likes of the Eastern Cape with that lush environment, it's I do believe that these animals are a lot stronger in their physical being than where it's all very easy. And the animals that live in the Eastern Cape is pretty much a paradise. They don't really need to work for their food or their water. The only thing that they have is conflict with other animals, but because there's so much availability of the resources, you don't find as much conflict as you do in the likes of Etosha. So I just think that the interplay between animals here is so much more profound and more powerful than the likes of the Eastern Cape, where it is beautiful and amazing to watch the animals down there, but it doesn't have that edge that these animals have. And I do find they're bigger and stronger here, from the elephants to the impala and the springbok. So sometimes when there's adversity, it actually really does make you stronger as a being. And I think it really rings true here in this kind of environment. So we're heading towards the end of the show, folks. As always, thanks to the wildlife for being the stars of the show. Thanks for joining us as we escape to nature across the different locations. We didn't get to go to Djuma. It was a little bit too windy there. So we stuck it out here at Okukuyu. But all the same, thanks to the whole Wild Earth team for making this all possible. And don't forget that later on there will be the Sunset Safari. And we'll also be doing this all again tomorrow. Sunrise Safari as well as Escape to Nature. So stay tuned on the Wild Earth channel. My name's Ralph Kirsten. We'll catch you all later. Bye for now.